we're going to do the neck and a little bit of the head and face on part 4. This is normally how I do my routines when I did do massage, and once in a while I still do, but not really very often anymore. Starting with the back, going to the backs of the legs, turning over, going to the fronts of the legs, and then coming up to the head and neck. So how I like to start is by just checking the range of motion with the neck. You can tell a lot from how well the neck turns. And the other thing I do is give a little traction as I turn the neck with a little traction. Again, it's a fascial traction, not a bone traction. And then set the head back down. Okay, I always do a little bit of lymphatic work to start with, so I'm not going to explain this too much in detail, but this is just to move any fluids that might be creating a little tension, as there's more often than not there's fluid retention in the neck and sinus area, especially because our atmosphere isn't real clean of pollutants, and there's lots of pollen in the air, and the breathing mechanisms are having to filter pretty hard, and that will be dribbled into the lymphatic system in the neck chain and the water wheel. So it's good to just let that happen, and it gives a chance for the client on the table to feel a little opening in their sinuses. So I just open with a little neck work that way, and then we're going to get into the muscles. If it feels like there's a lot of fullness in the water wheel, I'll oftentimes go into the face and just give a little bit of push with the lymph to get it to move, and then begin the muscle work or the cranial work, whichever I'm doing. And I also check the back of the neck with the fingers, just kind of making little circles along either side of the vertebrae, not on the vertebrae, because you can tell the tension of the neck muscles. One reason it's good to do this at the beginning is you can monitor and see how much change has happened. That way you have some way of letting yourself know if you're getting the work done, rather than just going through the motions, but if you are actually making some of the changes happen. Now, what I'm finding on the left side here is a little bit of a tense area. It's at about C3, C4 in the neck, right to the side of the left side of the vertebrae. So I'm just going to hold my fingers on that, similar to what I did with the thigh, and wait for that with just enough resistance on that, not to allow the muscle to push back, but to allow the muscle to be able to unwind itself. And it's not only the muscle, it's the fascial structures all the way through there. So it's beginning to unwind a little bit and soften. Okay, so I'm going to start with doing a little bit of work on the face with a little bit of oil, and we're going to go down into the neck and upper shoulders and upper chest. So I'm going to do a little oil, but I don't do a lot of oil on the face, just enough to make it so there's enough viscosity, good viscosity there, so the hands can slide easily, but not so much that it makes the face feel heavy with oil. And coming up. Now when you do massage on this, it's good to work upward. It's starting at the chin line, the jaw, working up and then coming into and under the nose, kind of follow the cheek line. And be very gentle. The tissue of the face is delicate. Go around the ears, that's a nice thing to kind of squeeze them gently and rotate them. There's other things that can be done with the ears. There's a way to drain the ears from excessive sinus blockages, and there's also an ear pull that helps to expand that temporal bone, but we're not going to be doing that right now. And here I've got my finger on the joint of the jaw joint, the temporomandibular joint, and I'm just feeling what's going on with that in relation to the temporal bones right near that mastoid suture. The jaw alignment is important to have that on the fulcrum because it can affect the other parts of the body and with alignment, which does seem kind of crazy, and a lot of people think it's crazy, but you know, if you think about it, it's very reasonable to realize that if there's a positional deviation somewhere, in order to maintain balance, there has to be another deviation to maintain. Now, what I'm feeling here is I'm feeling a lot of releasing from the temporal bone and positional changes, aligning that jaw. It's not really massage. This is getting into more advanced work again. Okay. Then we can come up to the nose. Run across the nose, up under the eyes, very gently and around, across the eyebrow, the brow. Follow that. You can also pluck the eyebrow a little bit across the brow area, just pluck it a little bit. Which is, plucking it is just taking little squeezes, picking it up. Don't push hard in the temporal bones. That's or in the on the sphenoid bone right here in the temple area. Don't push hard in there. There's the sphenoid bone that's easily situated with a lot of pressure, and that bone is very important to being on the fulcrum. Plus, it's not very comfortable to be pushed on right there. And coming up into the head, you can make little circular motions. Somewhat the way the hairdressers wash your hair, that always feels so good. But you're actually getting into the scalp. You're not just twisting hair follicles around, you're actually moving the skin and that very, very thin layer around the skull. So you're just manipulating that. And then we're coming back down into the neck. And again, be mindful of where their hair might be. Be careful not to pull hair. Okay, now we're going to take the thumbs and come down the back of the neck. And then moving the thumbs along the trapezius. And again, now this is a tight area for her, for Joy. She does work with her arms. She's a very limber person. And so I'm going to hold my thumbs there a little longer until it releases, because there is quite a bit of tension. We felt it from the other side. And now we can get into it with a little bit different angle for the work, so it's able to go a little deeper. And it's beginning to relax. It undulates around a little bit. It feels like it twists and turns and sometimes bubbles a little. It's very odd and unusual sensations, but if you keep the resistance on it and allow the body to lead you across that muscle, it will undo itself. Here's where paying attention to respecting what the body needs to unwind itself is so important. I am not an advocate at all of really hard, heavy work. I just have not seen the results be as efficient, although there's a place for everything, and if people really like that kind of work, by all means, that's what you should do. But what I teach and what I practice is to learn the more subtle bodies and to work in respect of that rather than being a little more aggressive. I guess you could say that I feel like there's so much aggressiveness going on all the time that the body almost doesn't know what to do when it's being allowed to take its time to make its process of change. And that feels much better through here now. Much, much better. So that didn't take a real long time to do. And then we can go underneath the clavicle. I'm getting into the sternoclavicular junction here. This is the place where the shoulders are attached to the skeleton, is right here. The rest of it is attached with muscle. So it's nice to keep that joint working. And then we have out here at the other side of the clavicle. Okay, and around the shoulder capsule on the front side. And just a little around this whole shoulder capsule, a little bit down the deltoid. We can go just slightly down the deltoid, but we are going to cover that with the arms. Okay, now to get into the chest a little bit, you can do similar to what you did on the back, where you're coming to the sternum and working yourself over. It doesn't have to be very much to give a lot of good feeling there. Apply a little bit more oil. Okay, here we go. We're going to go across that again. Starting right at the sternum, you can feel the ribs. I'm actually feeling like I'm between something. And then a delicate area to go is right. Very carefully you need to bring yourself into this because it's a very sensitive area, but right underneath into the armpit where you're picking up that pectoralis muscle and you're able to manipulate and work that through some kneading. If you go too rapidly into this, you're going to have some giggles on the table or some recoil because it's very ticklish for some people, but if you go slowly into it, you can usually overcome any of these ticklish defenses that come up. Same with the feet. And so that just softens. And then you can go up the neck there. Okay, I will go to the other side. I'm going to work from this side because the cameras are too close. So we're starting here and we're moving up. Up we go. Okay, and a little kneading right from that sternum. Okay, now here we go. I'm coming from the back side, so you want to have their arm a little out. And then you want to carefully come into that space. Here you are, underneath, lifting up underneath the pectoralis muscle and working it in a kneading position. It works better when you're on the other side because the thumbs work better being underneath, but you can get the idea of how much you can pick that muscle up and tuck under that muscle and really just pick it up. So you work into that and up and around the shoulder a little bit, back up through the back of the neck. So when you do work like this, you want to follow the anatomy from one muscle group to another as smoothly as possible, rather than kind of jumping all over from place to place. It just feels more relaxing, and it also seems like the muscles work better to relax when they can do it together as a grouping. Okay, now I'm going to show you a couple of things that are a little more advanced. This will again be something that I go into more detail in at another time when I display the advanced work, but you can get into the front of the neck. Normally I don't tell people to do much with the front of the neck because there's so much going on. There's the sternocleidomastoid muscle. But then there's something else that can be done, and that's accessing. You can actually access the thyroid gland, and you can give it some range of motion and actually loosen it up. Sometimes it's very, very tight in there. Now this is extremely delicate work because it looks like you're choking somebody, but you're not. And your other hand behind you will feel the difference of the unwinding that's going on. This is something you may not want to do till you know exactly where to hold. But this is real helpful. And you can take that into different range of motion. There's several different directions that you move it. So that's something else that can be incorporated. It's not really massage, but it works into some deeper things. And as you become more advanced in your work and master a few other techniques, you're able to combine them and actually give a lot more benefit to the people who come in because you're able to cross over to other modalities. Now, to end this, I'm going to do range of motion, turn the head to the side, and then work gently, because again, the neck is real delicate. Gently, but with enough pressure to be able to feel the change happening. Giving some stretch. And working down into that. Now, there's a little tension right along here. So I'm going to do that unwinding hold where you're coming down and you're finding where it feels like it's pushing back a little bit. And just wait. Just wait on it. And it's starting to change. Now, sometimes when that changes, the head is going to want to be moving with it. So you have to be extremely mindful what's going on and where that muscle wants to take it in order to be able to relax itself and unwind. And just that little bit of work, just that one time down, has already changed this muscle quite a bit.
I don't feel it anymore.
Great. I couldn't either. And then same thing on the other side. And I know this is harder to see with the camera angle, but I want to make sure she's not... Yeah, this side feels better. So if that was allowed to continue to move in the direction of tension, eventually it would be putting a strain on her neck, because this would be shortening it out. The other side would have to lengthen to accommodate it. It would also affect other muscles that are worked indirectly with that. And eventually it could have caused some movement of the neck muscle, or excuse me, the bones of the neck. So it's important to keep those muscles very pliable. So in just finishing up, I really like to always end with the neck work with the cranial base release, which is a cranial thing. It loosens all the neck muscles and it's quite nice. So that one I have explained it in my other videos, in my cranial videos, but this is another more advanced technique. Your fingers do need to be in a specific position, and directing the position of the fingers need to be directed at a certain place in the head. So it's not a push up, it's a holding, and their weight is on your hands. I would not advise doing this unless you really know where your hands need to be. And you just let those muscles relax, and as they relax, you're going to feel your fingers going deeply between the occipital base and the atlas. And that is going to really help with stiff necks and tight jaws and overall relaxation. So if you're a therapist and you're pretty mastered in massage and you want to give your clients a little bit more benefit quicker in less time, it's important to learn some of these little tiny techniques that can make all the difference in the world. And her neck feels really soft now. Still a little bit more tension on the left, but it's so slight. And I'm just holding that to let it unwind. And now we'll check it one more time. Now, this time I'm just going to be pulling a traction as the neck goes, and you can see the neck is moving very fluidly. There doesn't seem to be any resistance in the range of motion. When you go up to the back, hold the neck and let it fall back this way. Okay, there we have it. Now for part 5.